Kicking off wrapping up hour number 1.
What's wrong with you, man?
I can't.
Rain is making your brain soggy.
It is. My brain is very soggy.
Welcome to my world.
We're here. We're here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and we have a stream.
Which, by the way,
we got a stream, guys. What's up?
What are you talking about? Like the regular stream?
Yeah, that we're on the video again. We're back.
About to say, game day don't help you with that. Well, they probably could.
Might. They do check your prostate.
Do they?
Not like that. They check your PSA. They don't check it the other way.
You mean what? PSA?
PSA checks for prostate cancer. That's one of the markers.
PSA.
Do you not know about PSA?
I know about public service announcements. I'm about to make one to explain it to me.
So PSA is this marker that it's a fairly recent thing, because prostate cancer used to kill like a lot of men, and it became incredibly treatable because you would find it so much earlier.
Skip that part. Well understood.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this. So
the PSA is a marker. It's a very early indicator of potential prostate cancer.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that they check for and give you a free screening for at Game Day Men's Health, to make sure that...
Oh, I'm doing that.
They already did. That was part of our blood test.
So that was why they took all that blood?
Well, there's a bunch of things, because they run a full panel.
That's awesome. I should have known that.
Yeah, so they do
I was like, so that's why they did the multiple vials.
Yes, so that's what they do. PSA, which gives you...
That was like when your girl was like, I don't miss. I said, you did that before. Why do you need 2? And that one's bigger.
Yeah, so they do the PSA, make sure you don't have any early indicators for prostate cancer.
I didn't see her last week.
They do the test, the testosterone one, and then they do the full panel to make sure you don't have any other underlying health issues that might be affecting your health.
Yeah.
So if you want to, you can go ahead too, GameDayMen'sHealth.com.
My man Boyce said that the stream is getting worser.
Yeah, very real word. Very.
And I know his personality.
Yeah.
So the other day he goes, did he say worser?
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. And then on break I go, wait a minute. Did you say worser?
I did, yeah.
Shane, you never did cut that up, did you? I just want to hear him say that all the time. Because he gets away with making up words every day. And sometimes they end up actually being words. I don't get it.
Hold on.
You're going to try to lobby for worser?
Worser is a word. It is considered non-standard and shouldn't be used in formal writing, but it is a word.
Oh, Lord.
We are not formal. If anything, we are not formal.
Shout out my man, Coach Boggs, who's down in OKC, listening via the stream. So we hope that thing gets we got it fixed, right?
Yeah,
I should just ask Sasha.
We should be alive and well.
My man said, hey, I enjoy listening to you guys at Hurrdat. Your perspective of a player, coach, and father is very unique. We have a strong group of Husker fans down here in OKC listening.
Okay.
Let's go, OKC.
Let's go. I've been to OKC a couple times.
I have too. I spoke for a Tulsa group.
Yeah?
I might go back. He sent me a message the other day.
OKC's not a bad place.
I want to call him the Tulsa King.
Bricktown?
Yeah.
Tulsa King, I actually didn't hate that show.
So everybody says it's good.
It's
and I like
good.
Sylvester Stallone.
So do I. And I like mob shows.
Oh, it's a mob thing?
Yeah.
Damn.
You like mob shows too?
I kinda, but I don't need the typecasting.
No, it's good though. It is really good. I enjoyed it.
Are you vouching or are you going by what somebody told you?
No, I watched it. I haven't watched season 2, but I watched season 1. I really enjoyed it.
Oh.
I thought it looked kind of cheesy, to be honest with you. But my buddy,
that's the vibe I get.
But my buddy was like, "No, it's pretty good. Watch it." And he sent me the right direction on Justified, and so I was like, "All right, I'll give this one a go." And I enjoyed it. It was good.
So I was at a business that provides goods and services, and
it's very vague.
Well, when I tell the story, I need to be vague. So the guy behind the counter did not speak good English.
Okay.
But he had 2 television monitors that were above my head.
Okay.
That like play things. So apparently I was supposed to be checking out.
Yeah.
And
as one does at a store.
You're going to be shocked. But I got distracted.
A little distracted? By the TVs?
Yes. And I must have been looking up. And it was Silo. It's got season 2 is starting.
Okay.
So Ramon, my man Ramon with the cool voice.
Yeah.
He called in and talked about it.
He talked about the TV shows you should watch.
So that was one of the shows.
Yeah.
So I was like, shoot, I've been waiting for season 2. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking up And I thought the first time he's like, hey, sir. Oh, I'm not going to do the voice. Never mind. Oh boy. Sorry, Chris.
Gonna get in a lot of trouble.
He basically was like, hey, I need your attention.
Use your widest voice. See if you can find it.
I would like your attention, sir. You're not paying attention to me.
Pretend like you're trying to get
So I thought that's what he was going to say again. And I was like, oh, shoot, my bad.
Yeah.
Man, my dude went all in on educating me on season 1 of Silo. Now, I understood the gist because I have watched it, but I really only understood about every 7th word. And my man was vibing. And he tried to give me dap under the half glass. Not that I was buying anything at a shady establishment.
I know exactly where you were at.
And my man was like,
don't say it. Pretend like you're at a bank trying to get a loan. Don't do it.
Thank you for your service.
There we go. I know exactly where you were at.
Man, if you do, I will fall out.
I'm going to wait till we're off the air.
Yeah, but I almost was. So I just found myself watching TV in the store.
He didn't have an accent that would remind you of our next caller, did he?
Hey, so Eric is having some problems.
Who's Eric?
He said, who got the show kicked off the radio? So Tanner, Eric.
We're back, guys. We're back.
Tanner's my guy, too.
We're back, guys. We're on the stream.
So Tanner's ran a business for 20 years.
Yeah?
He does not.
Is it
Tanner's? No.
Oh, okay.
So Tanner's one of those guys like that I kind of met over
the internet. You make all your friends on the internet.
I can keep people at a distance. No, like Ashley Madison or something. Get out of here, man.
How you know about that?
I just saw the special. I literally watched that thing.
The Netflix version. Yeah, the documentary.
The last buy on the Saturday outside sitting on the deck, I watched it.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know why. It came across, when you turn on Fire TV.
Yeah,
it came across as an ad.
Yeah.
Like a thing.
Yeah, that seems interesting.
And I didn't really care. I just was zoning out. I had never had free time before on a weekend, so I was like, whatever. But anyway, so Tanner was he usually vibes, but he'll give a little push. It's healthy, right? Mm-hmm. It's healthy dialogue. He does not eating it all, but it's healthy dialogue. And he was like, as somebody who's ran a business for 20 years, he was really vibing. And a lot of people yesterday struck a chord with them when I was talking about not wanting to work for people or be a boss where they boil it down to just how much money you make.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
Like I think we got to go back and think about that for a second, because it's low-hanging fruit to go back and have that be the overarching indictment of the performance of the job that somebody's doing based on, well, they make X amount of money. Yeah. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, it's a
because if they told you to start the conversation, hey, bottom line is, man, I'm paid a lot of money and I may piss you off and it's going to hurt your feelings and I may not always do the most scruple things. And you'd be like, oh, you wouldn't eat that.
But usually if that happens and then they say, but I'm going to win a lot, they're putting themselves in a position where there is no other option.
What if they said and?
Either way. And I'm going to win a lot. It's same in that scenario. I think it's the same. Say, hey, I'm going to make a lot of money. I'm going to say some things that piss you off. You're going to not like the way I do business sometimes. Yeah, I'm going to hurt people's feelings. I'm going to treat people as transactional. And I'm going to win a lot. But I'm going to win a lot. To me, it doesn't change there.
Yeah. Sounds like some coaches we know.
Let's get to our guy, Asian Wyatt, here. He's got some questions on the bye week. What's up, Wyatt?
Wyatt, be kind.
I know you've been talking about it for the past 5 minutes, so I'll see.
Oh, thank the Lord. But I almost went into character, but I didn't. So if that
I helped him there. I tried to save him.
Yeah, he did.
Okay. Well, I got a quick question. Well, first off, Damon, just feeding into your conspiracy personality. Do you think the dodo is hanging out with Tupac on an island because it thinks it's own?
You guys.
Because it thinks it's own extinction?
You guys.
To, stop being hunted?
It's fine. It's fine, Wyatt. You're still my guy.
Tupac, Elvis, and the dodo bird.
That might be the call of the day.
Wow.
Maybe the week.
It's the only call of the day so far, Shane.
So you didn't tell Ravi what you messaged me real time. He goes, what he said, Tasmanian devil, also real.
Did I tell you that? You told me. Yeah.
Not funny.
Not just a cartoon character.
Anyway, go ahead, Wyatt.
What's up, Wyatt?
Yeah, that doesn't spin around anything like that. Anyway, no, I've got a couple of
Hedgehogs, also real. I don't know if you know this.
Enough.
They're not blue, though. They don't look like that.
Wow.
Go ahead.
It's not right.
Go ahead, Wyatt.
It's not right.
I got a couple of just, these are bye-week questions that are potentially pretty dumb. But anyway, first one is, do you think that with his production so far, has Carter Nelson, has his red shirt been used well, or do you think it could be a lot better given,
I think they could have been much more efficient with Carter Nelson, but I'll also say this. You have to be careful what you ask for. If you give if you intimate that you want to play early and you want to, you got to hold up your end of it too. So somebody can acquiesce and it not go the way that you want it to, and sometimes
you got to own part.
You got to own part of it too.
Okay.
So I'll say that.
Okay. Now here's my dumb question, but it's to fill my curiosity for the week, because it's a meaningless question. But do you think that Jay Allen made the right decision going to Miami? Because it feels like he's pretty far down to the depth chart down there, and would he potentially be playing a lot more at Haiti State?
That is an interesting question, Wyatt.
I was a big A.J. Allen guy, and I think Wyatt knows that.
I think a lot of people, a lot of people that I care about what they think were A.J. Allen guys. You want to ask BC?
Yeah, because that's a two-tiered answer, and I don't want to rush it.
Let's ask BC. Coming up next, our guy Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, where we're back. Now we're kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. Next hour, I have no idea what time it is today.
What is wrong with you?
I don't know. I'm all thrown off by our stream and not stream and trying to keep you from doing accents on the air. And
Islands in the stream.
But we've got our guy Brian Christopherson joining us here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. What's up, BC?
What's up? Never good when you have a bad stream, that's for sure.
It's true. Yeah, you don't want a obstructed stream. You don't want a split stream.
Anyway.
You got to be careful there. I was talking about television. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, buffering. That's what it is.
Yeah, you don't want buffering.
Yeah, right.
I like to have multiple streams going at the same time.
So, hey, B-Sizzle, what were you watching last night? Were you watching college basketball, or were you just kind of working, or what were you watching? Golden State, Dallas?
I wasn't watching any sports. I can't remember exactly. I was flipping around. I did catch the end of Oregon Ducks basketball against Portland. That's the only sports I watched.
That's kind of a
Oregon
luxury.
I
can't imagine just a night where you're like, I think I'll just watch whatever. I think I almost always watch sports.
Yeah, that's really impressive. I got to get away from it sometimes, and it feels like Tuesday night is the night that tends to happen. But yeah, I watched Dana Altman's boys squeak out an 80-70 win over the Portland Pilots.
That's a weird. That's a weird program.
Oregon.
Yeah, and Portland had lost to UC Santa Barbara by 41 points 3 days ago.
Hey, beware of the Gauchos, BC.
Yeah.
All right,
Is that the fighting Jim Les is out there?
No, it's the power of Jim Rome.
Who does Jim Les coach for out there? I thought he was at UC Santa Barbara.
He is.
The old Bradley coach?
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on now.
Oh, props to Ravi.
The Silver Fox, Jim Les?
My man is the king of the low-key humble brags, BC. I'm glad we get to talk to you so we can talk to somebody with some humility. Certainly.
Well, I'll see if I can get racked during this phone call.
Huge call. Rack him.
From Bugahaw.
Yeah, we're going to BC and L-Town.
Yeah.
So, BC, how frantically, be honest, were you typing after the first 60 seconds Coach Rhule takes the podium and approaches the mic?
Yeah, it was interesting because he comes up and he says, "Yeah, Dylan, we'll see tomorrow with Dylan, how he's looking and all that." normally there you go. There's your headline. That's 5 questions, starting quarterback, a little haze around what his status is, all that. And then he of course, he drops the bomb. And, Dana, since you know that news, he'll be calling the plays. It was kind of an interesting intro to it. You saw everyone quickly seeing how fast they could how many words per minute they could pound out. It's a good thing I took Mavis Beacom typing class growing up with my home row, so I was prepared.
BC, quick ask Zoe, right? You got to make sure you get that right. That's a deep cut. If anybody remembers taking typing classes,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if people know the Mavis Beacom reference at all, but there used to be a program on your computer where you could type, and you were driving in a car, and bugs would splatter on your windshield if you missed the proper keys. So that's how I learned how to type. Thanks to that, I was prepared for what we're talking about today.
Are you talking about Mavis Beacom, the co-founder of MySpace?
Is that,
I don't know.
Is that a thing?
Well, the only reason I know is because she's black.
What?
Mavis Beacon.
Oh, Beacon. I thought you said Beacom. I'm always chomping at the bit to champion my people.
I did say Beacom.
You big MySpace guy?
I thought it was Beacom. It's Beacon. Mavis Beacon typing class.
Okay, was that the same one that had all the words associated with the letters in the row so you could remember where they were?
Shane, we're getting kicked off.
I think so, yeah. I just remember the bugs on the windshield, and you had to avoid them.
I think I could do the whole keyboard if I still I'm not going to because that's not good radio, but I'm pretty sure I could still go through the whole thing.
Yeah, not good radio, right? We all of a sudden should switch that up. BC, so you're so you're
my bad.
You're frantically typing.
Rack 'em.
And again, true serum. How long did it take you to recalibrate to dial in after the news? Because I'm sure there's this processing, there's this typing, and you're like, wait, what did he just say?
Yeah, was there a delay where
you started to process the rest of what he was saying?
Not a huge delay because I knew going in there could be something.
Gotcha.
I knew we might be aiming toward that. So I was a little bit prepared. Slight warning by Keith Mann without giving it away. He walked in the room. He said, the schedule's going to be a little different this week with coaches or whatever. So there was a 30 to 60 second head start there if you kind of took that cue that something different was going to be in place, maybe with staff. But
was that your first indicator, or had you heard something before that?
No. I hadn't heard that it was official, but I knew it was definitely a possibility with a guy with the Dana Holgorsen's track record in town. I'll go back to what I said on this very show a week ago, though. We were talking about the loyalty that I think there is in the coaching profession when certain guys own certain spaces, or this is your title at this moment in this operation, and I think there's respect of those boundaries. I was applying it at that point, of course, to Holgorsen being respectful, which I think he would be, of Satterfield if he had been OC, and I think you're going to see the reverse of that, where I think Sat, as you saw, was humble about it, handled it as professionally as could be, and it's still part of the operation, and you fall in line with, okay, this is my job, and I have to do it as well as possible. So that's one of the things I admire about that business is how people, for the most part, just get to work with this is the way we're going to steer this ship, and everybody sort of grabs what they need to do that. So hopefully that's what's going on over there.
Hey, so BC, let me ask you something, and maybe this is and I'm just looking for a different perspective here to validate my thoughts. Weird. It kind of gives me the vibe that I think Coach Rhule stayed with us as long as he could with Coach Satterfield. Understanding, I think he wanted to give him every opportunity to have success after how he helped piece that thing together last year. You think that's right? Okay, you got some young wide receivers. Okay, you got a quarterback. We got a veteran offensive line. Now let's see what you can do. He wanted to exhaust every option before he cut the cord, and Coach Satterfield knows that he gave him every option. So it might not be as, quote unquote, awkward as we think.
I agree completely with that. I think he gave him ample time. I would think Satterfield probably agrees. These guys all know how this business operates, and that, as it was said on Monday, even at one point, it is a results-oriented business. You're only averaging 18.3 points per Big Ten game. At some point, that's probably not going to square up. The best interview, and I'm not saying this because I'm on your show, it was the best interview that Rhule gave about Satterfield's situation last year was on your guys' show. When he was talking. Yeah, and you guys know the part. It was when he was talking about, he had a good analogy or whatever about being a doctor, almost like on a subway, having to fix someone up with you don't have all the tools, and that was last year for Satterfield. So I think a lot of fans, they were like, okay, you're gonna have to prove it to me, buddy. There was definitely that theme. There was also, I think, an understanding that it was very difficult for him last year, and there was a little bit. I would say there was an open mind with some in the fan base that this could be different this year under Sat, and I feel like the ample amount of time was given, and I would actually say, Rhule probably course corrected at the right time. But I would also say that he course corrected probably a little quicker than some previous Husker leaders have done in certain situations. And I think Nebraska fans appreciate the whatever it takes follow through that we heard in the last week's press conference. We saw it on display this week.
Yeah, BC, because I'm glad you brought that up, because it would have been a really reasonable thing to do to maybe switch play calling from Satterfield to Glenn Thomas or somebody that's already on your staff and already in the room, and say, hey, we'll figure the staffing out in the off season. This is this is pretty weird, right? Like, I don't know that I've seen a play caller get hired mid-season before. I'm sure it's happened, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. Like, this is pretty strange, right?
Yeah, it is unique territory. I couldn't come up with one either off the cuff. That I did ask, and I don't know that, I wouldn't expect necessarily Rhule to answer this, but I asked, like, maybe how in tune Dana had been from a distance with this team, like maybe in preparation for this. You're sort of, behind the scenes, you're watching film a little bit on the personnel and thinking this is what I would do if I got there. So I don't know how much of that went on and if that helped him or was going to help him jump right in. But it definitely is different. But the way Matt Rhule laid it out on Monday, it makes sense in this day and age. You give a guy a little runway now to sort of examine the personnel, see what works with this group of guys, what doesn't. And it's not going to be all perfect. It's not suddenly just going to hum along. But this is also useful for Holgorsen if he's the guy next year, that he's getting this very important time with these players, as opposed to that first chance to see guys up close being in spring ball next year. So I think that's huge, that part of it. So it is weird, but it's also advantageous if you do it right.
BC, do you view this more as a tryout for Holgorsen at Nebraska or for Nebraska for Holgorsen, or am I looking at it totally wrong?
I couldn't say. I think Rhule wants Holgorsen to be his guy next year. I think he kind of said that with, in some of his press conference that, he doesn't know what things will hold in 3 weeks, but he thinks it could be a great fit. And Matt Rhule doesn't strike me as the type of guy who would just say that this isn't what's going to happen because it's not great necessarily the next 3 weeks. I think he knows the challenges Dana has doing this on the fly right now. So I don't think there's going to be like a judgment of if it works. He works here over what the results are necessarily the next 3 weeks. I'm sure, from Dana's perspective, you never know. He could have other opportunities that pop up. He's a no name in football circles. So there's always that possibility something else could cross his radar. But I don't know. It just feels like really good odds these two are going to be together next year, and you'd love to see them get a little momentum before that happens.
So, BC, you're kind of watching this thing play out, and how do you draw the line? And this is coming from one of the more even-keeled people I know in your sphere of, I'm willing to do what I need to do to give our kids in this university the best chance to have success, but I'm not going to cave either, even though it may look like, shoot, I'm kind of you know what I mean? It could optics could go a bunch of different ways, but like I like to say, optics are a word we use when we don't have enough information. How do you parse through just the competitive nature of giving us a chance to win versus, oh man, is he panicking?
Yeah, I don't think people see it as panicking. I think it goes back to one of the earlier questions. I think most people, from what I'm hearing, it's like, yeah, it was time. I mean, there was so much commotion after every game about, and you know, fair or not, the coordinator takes the brunt of the criticism, it seems like, and everything would always come back to Satterfield. You know, like after every post game, it was a discussion about him. And that had to be difficult on him as a coach and as a person too. And so I just think, honestly, it's probably good for this program to relieve that conversation from the table. You know, like that now not everything is just about one guy. Like, you know, the Collins show, I don't hear all of them, but I can imagine half the phone calls are about one coach, you know, and that's not necessarily the way you want it to be. So you kind of, I think by doing this now, you make sure the topic is back on the whole operation. And it does fall on, as he has said, Matt Rhule has said, guys have to do their own part too. You have to make plays. You can't catch a pass and just fall down. You know, you can't miss on a block on a bubble screen that should be at least 5 or 6 yards and it's no yards. So all that stuff he's talked about now, let's put all our attention on that and not just on one guy anymore. So I don't think people are going to see it as panic. I think people thought it was the right time. I think you asked a good question earlier in stating that, you know, I think even Marcus Satterfield knows that he was kind of up against the clock on having to produce, and this is the moment usually switches like this happen. So it makes a lot of sense, and I don't think it's probably going to affect them within the walls too much with that.
Yeah, I try to keep my feelings out of it, but since we're just liking on all these authentic moments, there was two things that I was really trying to be protective of, and I think ultimately at the end of the day for me, BC, it was I want Nebraska to flourish, and I thought, okay, for Coach Sat, even you're 5-1. Don't explain things to us in the media. We don't need it. Just stay the course. Give yourself the best chance to just hunker down, kind of like he had to do last year, right? But it got to 5-1, and it was like we were picking apart 5-1, even though we didn't. It's like we hadn't been. Like, really, you guys are complaining about this? So you heard that in my voice. But the other thing is, and I hate to use this in sports, BC. I feel like a total gump when I do it, but I wanted to say it's unfair, right? I know I sound like a crybaby, and they're grown men and they're paid, but I thought it was unfair, and I always tried to separate. It's like Sat took all the blame and the losses, and like the new shiny toy got all the accolades when they won, and so I would always ask, hey, how do we separate the two? Are they connected? Is it? And so like you could kind of see this coming. That's why I think the relationship that Coach Rhule and Coach Sat have will be of the utmost importance, because the players will see two things. They'll see a guy that they know their head coach absolutely respects and loves, and he gave him every opportunity, but he still made a tough decision. Right. Sat may end up being, BC, the best example of caring, but not coddling.
Right. No, I mean it's a strong message because, like you say, it's known how much respect there is. These guys go back to Western Carolina in 2005. Satterfield's been at every stop along the way with him. And I want to be clear on this. I've seen coaches come and go here, and I've seen coaches who have been criticized as not knowing a lick about football and all this nonsense, and they'll go somewhere else and they'll do pretty fine, And so sometimes
Tim Beck.
Quite, yeah, it doesn't quite work out in a certain road you're on sometimes, and you switch to a different lane and things take off for a guy. So I think Satterfield's a good football coach. It just wasn't the level they needed it to be. I think everybody kind of understood that over there. And, he made a hard decision, and I think people appreciate that. As I said, I think he course corrected as quick as he possibly could have in this situation while also being fair about it. So I think there's a lot to be said. Now, the key, I think about being a coordinator in this program, what a fishbowl it is. I'm looking at the quote Rhule had on Monday. He said, I think as we've moved throughout the year, we've just tried to get too many things, to get too many guys involved. We've had too many adjustments. I'll put that squarely on me as a head coach. As well as I do, Damon, around here, there's always this suggestion, well, you got to get Harburg more touches.
Yep.
You got to get this guy more touches. And it's hard to not try to, I think, appease that sometimes and let that enter into your way of thinking as a play caller. And you got to be kind of hard-headed and almost just like have a wall up to all of that.
That's what drew me to him last year. He stayed the course. And the minute he started saying, well, we can score in the fourth quarter if we have to, or we get in a shootout, and he started kind of explaining through us about what they could do when they wanted to win games. I was like, oh, poop. Like, they're listening. They're like, and whether I agreed with it or not, I just wanted conviction because I've seen it work. I've seen single wing work. I've seen air raid work. Like, I don't care what it is.
If you execute it well,
if you execute it, it's gonna work. So whatever it is, just do it. I didn't even care really. You know what I mean? I just was like, oh, poo. This may not go well. We're starting to waver a little bit, right?
Yeah, you have to, like, for instance, I might go to a press conference and I'm working on something let's just use an example like Thomas Fidone. So you write something or you ask a question about like Thomas Fidone's activity or like if trying to get him the ball more or something that's along those lines. And you could go to a weekly press conference and you could hear maybe 3 or 4 different examples of, well, Ja'Cory Barney maybe needs more touches or Fidone or Harburg. And so I do think you have to have a strong will in that spot. And this is where I think it is useful that Holgorsen's just done this so long. He sat in a captain's chair at 2 different schools. It's probably useful in that respect of maybe you don't get drawn into that as much, where you can answer the question like, yeah, I would love to get him the ball more, but it doesn't necessarily affect your game planning or anything like that, or where you're trying to hit a quota box or whatever for a certain player. So I do think that's a challenge here, though, because there is always like ideas just in the air about how to involve everybody. So you got to be strong, as you say, in your convictions on things.
BC, last thing for me here before we let you go. One of the other quotes that Coach Rhule had on Monday was talking about getting the most competitive guys on the field and letting them loose. When he says something like that, are there certain players that pop to your mind?
Oh, that's a good question, Ravi. I think we've seen the examples of some of them have flourished. Like, I think Ja'Cory's a kid who's built like that. There's probably some guys behind the scenes, and it's not easy for like guys who haven't played at this point to just pop in and suddenly be big time contributors. You don't see that a lot either. But I'm sure there's some young guys that they have in mind that over the last part, especially if they can get to a bowl game, which is why it's so huge, you'd love to get them more involved in that particular game as well, who are really showing out that we're not seeing yet. So I don't know who the names are. I mean, I know there's young guys who are making the trip. I know Caleb's making the trip. I know Donovan Jones has been on road trips.
Wait, how do you know Caleb's making the trip?
Well, I not the USC. I meant ISU. But
Well, he is, but I'm just saying it's pretty good, B.
He has previously made a trip.
I meant previously. I wasn't trying to act like I knew something. But,
Breaking news from BC.
But Damon just confirmed it. I got
Oh, fudge.
I'm going to go type that out now. Good thing I have fast typing skills. I'll get that out there.
Thanks, Mavis Beacon. I mean, Brian Christopherson.
Oh, man. You always have a gym, BC. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DBM Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We are joined now by our friend Kevin Sjuts from 1011 News in Lincoln. What's up, Kevin?
Good morning. I got to ask you guys a question. Does Nebraska UCLA feel like forever ago or what?
Yes.
Ages.
Yes.
Ages.
So you know,
I know.
God, that's
like,
funny.
Like bye weeks last for a while. This has lasted. It feels like a month plus.
It feels like an off season.
So here's the funny thing.
Well, maybe it's because we had a coaching change.
You saying that when Coach Rhule said, "Yeah, you know those zero blitzes that I mean, sometimes you guys were out here booing, and I mean, rightfully so. But those blitzes were working against Iowa." And I was just like, "Wait, UCLA played Iowa? No, that's right. That was just last Friday, not this weekend.
Like 3 days.
Even that seemed like a long time ago." So when he said the UCLA thing. Full disclosure, the first thing I thought about was, why are we going back to UCLA? That was for – oh, wait a minute.
No,
that was the last game. I swear – I promise.
Why are we talking about old stuff?
It's just hilarious that you said that. Because that was the sequence that went through my mind.
And this Saturday, it's going to feel like almost like a season opener, I feel like. You know, thinking about, you know, being on the field and, you know, watching this team play again, even though it's going to look different. With the new offensive coordinator, it seems like it's been so long since this team has played, and I think everybody knew before that UCLA game, you know, a loss at home with only one more home game left and the bye week following, it was like that's going to be a bad scenario, and it's what played out. And I think that maybe just the temperature of the fan base and the mentality of everybody around Lincoln and everybody that follows the program, it's really kind of beating people down. Yeah. And so they kind of put it in the closet. And so you just kind of forget about it. And it's like, oh, we're a few days away from playing again.
Kevin, since we're asking kind of existential questions here, you seem like a guy with a lot of authority. Can you give me permission? Can you give me permission to smack some people upside the head? Because I'm hearing a lot of people go, oh, this feels like a desperation move to switch OCs. And it's like, okay. If we're sitting here and he doesn't do anything, these exact same people would be moaning and complaining about, oh, he's just going to ride it out with this guy Sat.
I mean, we heard Cosgrove in week 3.
It's a buddy hire, and he's not going to do what it takes to win, even though he talks about it all the time. So, like, which is it? Is it a desperation move, or is it a buddy hire that he's not going to do what it takes to win? Because it can't be both.
It's neither. And, Ravi, I give you full authority to smack anybody around that you'd like to. I have no authority, and it's flattering that you think that of me.
Well, you just look so
it's all in your delivery.
You look so
Kevin.
professional all the time. You're so buttoned up, you know?
Well, I fake it very well, and I have everybody fooled. But I don't think it's either. It's not a buddy hire. It's a guy who knows ball, and it's not a desperation move. It's a team that's trying to, like, get over the hump, and there's also 2025 involved in the decision. So I don't know why everybody needs to just have such an emotional reaction to a move like this. Yes, it is rare. You know, bringing in an outside play caller in the middle of a season, I'd even say late in the season, I can't think of a time that's really happened. But I don't think that lends itself to being a buddy hire, you know. And it's one thing if, you know, Dana Holgorsen and Matt Rhule grew up 3 doors down from each other and they have known each other for their entire lives. You know, their relationship goes back to coaching against each other. And Rhule shared the story of when he was climbing the coaching ranks, how he remembers listening to Dana Holgorsen at a clinic. So he's always thought pretty fondly of him. But I don't get the sense that those two guys are attached at the hip.
Kev, you know what I think we're kind of, we're undervaluing in the grand scheme of things with like an unintended consequence. You know what I bet gets better immediately just because of the experience that we always complain about? I bet you right out of the gates, clock management improves dramatically.
Well, he's a head coach. He's been a head coach, and he's got over 30 years of coaching experience.
And a play caller.
Yeah, absolutely. So, managing, especially now with the 2-minute warning in both halves, I think that's a good analysis there, or a good thought, DB. The clock management could definitely improve, and I think tempo, too. I think that this team's going to maybe play with greater pace. I don't know if it'll be this week, but I think down the stretch, you'll maybe see that. But sometimes tempo and confidence kind of go hand in hand. So I would caution a lot of people to think it's just going to come out and look different. And they're going to come out and play with a lot of swagger and with some renewed energy. I mean, they might be swimming in it.
But no, you didn't.
Well, they may. I don't know what they're going to do. But you can't just instantly think that a change results in, like, different results immediately.
Kevin, I've kind of been on this kick of finding
being obnoxious.
Well, that's not a kick. That's a personality trait. That's not a bug. That's part of the system, DB. Of looking at some of the things that Coach Rhule said on Monday, besides the bombshell that he dropped about Dana Holgorsen. And one of the things he said, although in reference to Dana, was this is a lonely job sometimes, and to have someone in the building who's done that, you've got someone in the building to bounce ideas off of.
Understated.
How important do you think that is in making Coach Rhule a better version of himself?
Yeah, I think it's really important. And, that comment comes 1 week after he says he wanted everybody to feel what he's feeling. I thought that was a pretty profound quote, not this Monday, but the previous week. He's trying so hard and he wants so badly to get win number 6 and to lift the bowl drought. And maybe he needs somebody, and this is no disrespect to anybody on the current staff, but maybe he needs somebody that has sat in his seat at a different location, but has felt some of the pressure, that has, spent the long nights and has dealt with some of the things that only the head coach deals with. So there could be an element to Dana Holgorsen's hire that it goes beyond him just reevaluating Nebraska's offensive approach, where they place the personnel and then helping call the plays.
Yeah, I totally think that was understated, because I just look at the breakdown of the staff, right, in terms of who's on it and overseeing. Like, I think that's pretty important, if nothing else, as a sounding board.
Oh, I guess the obnoxious guy got one right.
So, it's like love, Kevin. It just takes time.
Oh, and then once it's there, it never goes away. Just links everybody together.
Hey, I got to do a quick transition, because I don't know if you believe in peaking too early or just being good, but is Nebraska volleyball peaking too early?
No.
Yeah, it just seems like they're pretty good.
No, they're good. And even look at last year. Last year, one loss leading up to the national championship match. Did they peak too early? No. I mean, if you make it to the national championship match, you were good at the end of the year. And I think this team is just really, really good. If anything, they've almost made the regular season a little bit boring, because they show up and they smoke teams, and matches last, hour and 15 minutes?
Yeah, not very long.
And you're like, I wanted more. I just paid for my ticket,
It's the Mike Tyson fights of volleyball.
Yeah, that's a great comparison, Tyson, by the way. Perfect timing of that with this week's fight. Anyway, so we're going to say that John Cook is Mike Tyson. He's just rolling through people and making things happen very quickly.
Kevin, now you're smart, but were you smart enough to follow along with, like, the college football playoffs reveal? Because I'm not going to kid you. I paused and rewound. I'm like, what happened to 14? What happened to 14 and 13? And like it just can they simplify this for ding dongs like me, or were you just like, oh, I got this? It's
no, I'm just kind of like whatever with it. It is going to make for a really. Honestly, to be totally transparent, I'm kind of wrapped up in college basketball right now. I'm loving
already
the game. Oh, absolutely! Did you guys not watch the games in Atlanta last night?
Oh yeah, you missed my partner waxing poetic with his hot take that Cooper Flagg shouldn't be the number 1 pick.
That's not what I said. I'm just saying I don't totally see it right now. That's all I'm saying.
He's Ravi, I mean, we can restart this whole thing and just talk about college hoops if you want.
Listen, I'm saying he's good and he's relentless. I'm just saying I'm grading him on a number 1 pick scale.
You just don't think he's dynamic enough.
Yeah, he doesn't seem super dynamic yet.
I think I'm not too far off with you there, Robbie.
Full disclosure, I said the same thing too, Kim. So I'm just throwing him under the bus.
next level wise, he might be role player. I don't know if he is game changer. He's good,
and maybe he ends up being. People keep telling me he's 17. I forgot about that. No one had told me that he was 17. So maybe there's more there.
He sure as heck doesn't look 17. That dude moves like 25 and like just a seasoned vet. I mean, anyway, back to your question, DB. College football playoff? I don't know. Talk to me in late November. I'm not going to get too worked up over it right now. I like the hoops, though. I like the hoops. It's fun right now.
Smart man.
Kevin, we appreciate it. As always, good stuff today. We'll talk to you later.
All right, be well, boys.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We are back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Yes, we are live on those platforms because we're back. And we're here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where on December 3rd, you can join us for the inaugural NAB Preps Football Award Show. Doors open at 6. Show starts at 6:30. Be hosted by our very own Mike Sauter. There will be awards presented in all 7 classes, which is all very real football and great awards in each and every one of them.
You're a dummy.
Player of the Year, Offensive, Defensive, and Special Teams Player of the Year, as well as, for the first time ever, a year-long Big Game Chain Player of the Year, all coming up on December 3rd for the NAB Preps Football Awards Show. Make sure you get to Eventbrite and sign up today.
There's a lot going on. You want to do a little sports cleanup?
Yeah, let's do a little sports cleanup.
So I think my man, Degenerate Aaron, is right there with me.
On what?
He said Sat was in a no-win situation. I'm looking at the timing. So he may have sent this before I even said it. He goes, Sat was in a no-win situation. He takes all the blame with losses, and the new quarterback gets all the praise when they win. You think there's something to that? Because
100%. This is what I brought up the last couple of weeks, right?
Couple of weeks. This is what I tried to ask about OC quarterback relationship since the season
100%.
started.
You were earlier than I am. Like, I'll give you your flowers.
Since
you were right there.
Season started.
But what have I talked about the last couple of weeks? Like, hey, at some point, Dylan's got to make the throws.
I'm just curious.
Right?
Like, I don't know how many people feel like that.
I don't either.
And I wouldn't say Aaron is overly
pro.
Nah, he's a
Satterfield.
huge fan.
Yeah, but yeah.
I mean, that's the Adidas transformation shoe guy.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say he's certainly not pro Sat, but I think he is pro being open to thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying like he doesn't have a slant.
Sure. He just wants to get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot there. And we talked about this a lot during the course of the season where it's like, hey, people are predispositioned to like Dylan. They are predisposed from last year to dislike Satterfield. Mm-hmm. Some people were predisposed before that because they didn't like how it looked at South Carolina.
Yeah.
Right? And so anytime something bad happens, it gets blamed on the person you don't like. Anytime something good happens, you get credit pointed on the person you like. And even when it's Dylan's like just like on that pick 6, that's kind of the first time people were like, oh yeah, that was, but that type of thing, even though it didn't result in that particular catastrophic event, that type of thing had been happening a lot over the course of a few weeks where Dylan just wasn't throwing to the right guy. And so like, that's not on Satterfield. right? The play design is there. The play call is there. The guys are open. At some point, what have you heard Coach Rhule talk about last few games? Some point, players got to execute, right?
I just remember what I was going to say yesterday when I had the brain to.
Let's go.
Incredible how my narrow mind works.
Don't lose it again. Say it.
So what I was going to say when I was talking about doing cookies and
in the parking lot.
In the parking lot, even though there was nothing slick, Coach, dang it.
Did you lose it again?
No.
Kegs and eggs in football. Let's go.
So Coach Rhule talked about OMG.
I don't know what's happening right now.
Buffering.
Did you lose it again?
What'd you just say? No, listen, this is going to make me mad.
I was talking about how when the last few weeks we had seen, and it only really came publicly as put on Dylan when he threw the pick six, when Thomas Fedoni was wide open on the in cut before that, or on that same play. But those types of mistakes of throwing to the right guy, holding on to the ball for too long, had been happening for a few weeks. And at some point, like Coach Rhule said, players have to execute.
So we were talking about coaches' responsibility versus players' execution. This has been a thing, right?
100%.
Well, whose fault is it? The regression. And what did I say? I said I dumb it down like this: if it's your pet plays and players aren't executing it, that's on the player. If it's install and situational, let's do this for this week, and they can't execute it, that's on the coaches.
Okay.
So where I started doing cookies during the presser was, hey, we're going to do simple better, because once we do the simple better, you have no choice but to say it's
the players.
It's the players.
Right? He's basically stripping everything
So
down.
I was like, that spurred me to think, like, okay, he's given them everything.
Every opportunity to succeed.
So
he knows for a fact.
Now, and then I gave the colander, putting it in the strainer reference.
Seeing what's left.
And whatever is left is what you can eat.
Because where Nebraska's at now, and this is maybe, I'll give some blame here.
I can't believe I couldn't land the plane with that thought. Just forget.
Right. So we got it.
But I can remember what you had for breakfast 2 years ago. God, that was pissing me off.
So we're at this place now where I think you can maybe assign a little blame to the coaching staff, or maybe they thought.
Yeah, because if sequentially you don't teach it. I used to talk about this all the time. Hey, this week we'll put in this play, and this week we'll put in this play, and we're a counter team. So
and maybe they thought they were ready for too much.
So you just put in like 3 plays just because it's the opposite of what you normally do, but it doesn't build on anything.
It doesn't help.
Yeah, kids have a hard time mastering that.
Yeah, and so if you're in a situation like that, or I think we've said this about Dylan, like I think they did put too much on Dylan in terms of maybe all the check with me's and being able to audible as a true freshman at the line and whatever the case is. Like maybe they gave him too much and it kind of slowed down his processing a little bit. Simplifying those things down. And you can put all of that, you can put that on the coaching staff. That's a coaching decision.
Yep.
You can put that on the coaching staff.
That's why it was curious to hear him say, hey, I want to take a look at our install.
Yeah.
Like how we're doing.
Which that to me is one of the major advantages of bringing a guy in with an air raid background, because air raid's supposed to be very, very simple, very easy reads, it's supposed to be.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, because I just want to go back to like when I would say things like, hey, listen, power counter, whatever your core plays are,
just do those. Just do those. Be good at the 4 or 5 things. And what did Coach Rhule say? Hey, we need to find the things we're good at, find the players that are making plays, and put those players in to the things we're good at.
So I think once you know what you want to do, you can do things that he kind of evolved into saying later on in the press conference, where he's like, hey, listen, where we understand leverage. Hey, if he's inside, let's throw the speed out. If he's inside, if he's outside, let's throw the slant.
But that's the next step.
And
right?
I was like,
that's the second step.
I know. So I cringed but I was happy because I know people are going to hear that and be like, no bleep, what were you doing before? But that's not how. Like if you watch installation of like passing games and like concepts, Some it's layered, some it's flood, some it's
it's not
high
all the
low.
same.
It's not all
It's not all
sometimes
option or
winning.
choice routes.
Yeah, the
right?
older you get, it can be about winning.
Yeah, but some guys use different pass concepts.
Yeah, some guys think, hey, they play quarters. These are my quarters beaters.
Yeah.
Some guys play two. These are my two beaters.
And
they build concepts that way.
And one of the things about air raid concepts is a lot of choice routes.
Yeah.
A lot of choice option routes, whatever you want to call them.
So
right?
it's hard to take away.
Yeah, because
that's why you love that Auburn offense with Nick Marshall.
Yeah, 100%. Because you had like 3 or 4 things that you could do off of any given play, and they only ran like 4 plays.
Who does that sound like in the Big Ten? Be honest.
Indiana.
100%.
Yeah, sounds like Indiana. It looks a little different than what Auburn was doing under
the
Malzahn.
concept is the same.
But the ideology is the same.
On every play, somebody's doing this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And you get to
dress it up however you want to dress. And that's the other thing I liked about Gus Malzahn and those Auburn offenses is they dressed it up in so many different ways. There was so much pre-snap motion that you couldn't tell which guy was going to be which option. Because that's the part that makes that really complicated is, I mean, yeah, you're putting guys in bad positions to make difficult choices anyway. But then when you don't know which guys are going to be doing each of those 3 or 4 options, it's another layer of difficulty as a defense. Yeah. That's why I love those. That's why I love Jamie Chadwell. He does a lot of those things, right? That's why I love.
Does Monken know you're
that's why I love
around on him?
No, I was just about to say that's why I love Jeff Monken because he does a lot of those things.
You can't. I mean,
yes, I can. I like whoever I like.
So only 7 days in a week.
I'm Coach Polyamorous over here.
Poly, Latin for many, amorous for meaning love.
Yeah, I love many coaches.
Take Latin, kids. Wow,
I did 4 years. I did pretty well on the national Latin exam too. Jack wants to give us a call.
Sure?
Yeah, I was a gold medal winner, national Latin exam.
Shocker.
I was smart back in the day. Been hanging out with you too much. That was one of those things that was meaner than I meant it to be. Jack, what do we got going on, bud?
Hey, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Well, I tell you, I've read a little bit about skepticism and this thing and that, but I'll tell you where I am. I'm giddy as a 5th grade schoolgirl right now about the whole thing. I think it's going to work just fine. Yesterday, I pulled up some old West Virginia film when he was there and just kind of watched him. A lot of 3-step drops, a lot of get the ball out quick, a lot of hitting those little slants, a lot of roll out, hit those little curls for 6-7 yards. It makes those safeties have to come up and start playing up more than they do now. Because that's one of my – and it's not a complaint, but one of the things I've noticed about what we've done is a lot of slow developing pass play.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a while to get developed. I got to get them, in a bunch of reads and this thing and that thing. It ain't going to be that way in his offense. It's going to be get it out quick.
Yeah.
Jack,
it's a great call.
Appreciate the call. As always, and efficient. I like that. Like my guy gets in and out, gets to the point. Love it. Appreciate all the calls we get from Jack. Coming up next, we're going to talk to our guy, Yogi Roth. He's a football analyst for Big Ten Network, a little bit of a quarterback guru as well. We will get his thoughts coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Yogi Roth. He's a college football analyst for Big Ten Network. Yogi, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
We are hanging in there, Yogi. So you know him as well or better than anybody, okay? The couple of West Coast teams here. Right now, on November 13th, as an overseer of a program, right, General Manager Roth, would you rather be in Westwood or downtown Los Angeles?
That's a hard one for me. If I had to go in and I was like coaching football today, I don't know.
Isn't it interesting that nothing came to mind quickly?
Well, yeah, part of me, if it wasn't a bye week for SC, I would have said UCLA. But the fact that like they've had a bye to like digest everything.
Yeah.
You got Nebraska coming up at home. I got to go into the rain in 42 degrees in Seattle. And for me in Southern California now for 20 years, I'm definitely soft when it comes to weather. so I don't know.
Dude, I saw your gear a couple weeks ago. You're sharp as ever. You don't have to worry about that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think they're both in unique times. I think if you said to me, which story would you believe in August that this is the reality of their team on November 13th, I said I would have believed UCLA's. Really challenging. Didn't see them winning the games that they lost early on in the gauntlet they had. And then after they won the game that you referenced when I was at Nebraska, you're thinking, okay, here comes a moment. And then you watch the Iowa game and, all things that I thought, they were capable of, which is the back half of their schedule being lighter than the initial gauntlet. I think for the Trojans, after that first win, you go from, whoa, this team might go to the playoff. Whoa, they might have a Heisman frontrunner in Miller Moss. I felt coming into the season, I had SC around 8 wins.
Yeah.
I called it a foundational year for them.
Yeah.
They got a lot of good second-year players. I like how they're recruiting. They had a facility coming. Like they overhauled the defensive staff. But if you told me SC was, going to be competing for their bowl lives, I would have said no way.
How do you think Coach Foster has? I think his staff is exceptional. Like I saw the adjustments and kind of how they're winning week after week with some of their man beaters and their concepts. Like I get he's got a quality staff, but I was shocked being on the field to hear them say, hey, you know what? Indiana was the best team we played up to this point. Well, I think we're going to be good down the stretch. And I was like, wait, what? But there may be something to that with how he's put this staff together and kind of their versatility as a coaching staff.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I just went over and check out practice yesterday too, just because, I don't have a game this week, so I just need to see some football. I'm doing studio for the Big Ten. And I think a couple of things. One is that, and we get this sometimes, and I think we're lucky when we get this as fans or, fans of the game. We're watching Deshaun Foster learn on the job, right? Like he's evolving as a head coach in real time in LA.
Yeah.
That is hard to do. I saw Clay Helton do that in real time. We've seen, guys like Mark Helfrich do that in real time. Like these first-time head coaches, sometimes these huge markets, it's hard. It's not an easy craft by any stretch of the imagination. And when your team, is down in terms of they lost, dramatic productivity last year on their defensive line, on their offensive line. When Chip Kelly was there, you're thinking, oh, this is going to be rough, man. And then you bring in offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, who is an NFL-style guy. And, if you know anything about him or his style of offense, it's not the air raid in terms of you can learn it in a couple afternoons in training camp. Like this takes time. It's timing. It's variance of, 7, 8, 9 words per play. It's a lot to do. And I watch all their games, and you just kept seeing like a couple snaps away. You go back and turn on that Indiana game, and they fumble the first snap of each half in their own territory.
Yep.
You watch the game, and there's some really fun, creative things they're doing offensively. And I remember watching that back after seeing the score saying, wow, they're doing some good stuff. Like, I wonder if they could ever put it together, or if the season's just going to be too much for them in this league and the gauntlet that I referenced. And they just kind of stayed the course. They're still killing themselves with penalties every game. But you go back to the Minnesota game, and I called Minnesota. They lose at the last play of the game. Heck of a ball game. You go back and you watch even the Penn State game. They're driving the first drive of the game. The LSU game, they're moving the ball. They just didn't find consistency. It wasn't until the Rutgers game on the road in a noon game Eastern time where they looked the part. I called that one too.
Yeah.
Then they come on back and they get the one against Nebraska that we referenced. They get Iowa, and they should have drilled Iowa. They could have won by 3 or 4 touchdowns, in my opinion, if they don't turn the ball over. They didn't have 9 penalties. So yeah, this team is peaking. They got a shot to win their last 3, and I wouldn't be shocked if they did.
Yogi, I'm always interested. You mentioned Deshaun Foster kind of learning on the job here in a really big market, but it's not. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. You got a better pulse on those teams than I do, but it doesn't seem like a place where expectations get out of
certainly
hand.
Not like Lincoln.
And
Riley, that is.
So, or Lincoln, Nebraska, for that matter. But it seems like that's sort of an advantageous situation, even in normal circumstances, but also where you're looking at what you just mentioned. They were losing a ton of guys. They were expected to take a step back this year regardless. Like, how much does that help when you can go 2-5 and nobody's really calling for your job, or nobody's really saying the sky is falling? You're just like, kind of a rough start, but you don't get a ton of the same flack that you do, say, across town, where Lincoln Riley, who's won a ton, by the way,
or Cignetti versus Sharon Moore, right? Like,
yeah, like how much does that matter to you when guys are trying to figure it out? Where Sharon Moore is not getting that benefit of the doubt of flying under the radar with the Michigan program.
Yeah, I think it's there's two sides to it, right? Like one, yeah, it's great. Like what head coach wouldn't like that? You know, you're in LA. That school has won big before. It's had success recently, right? It's been 8 and 9 win seasons the last 3 seasons that people often forget about. So it's got a really healthy culture. They call it books and ball over there because the degree is obviously a powerful one, and the players aren't often going there for 2 and out, or now 1 and out if it's in the portal, or 3 and out. Like they want the degree. Like there's so many kids in the grad school program there, which I could get into because I think I'm fascinating. I guest lecture there a couple times a year. But overall, yeah, I think it benefits you. And the other side, though, too, is that like, you don't want, you don't want the fan base to not be passionate, and that's the thing that UCLA isn't. They have passion. You just got to give them a reason to do it, and that's really LA. You could be at USC, UCLA, the Lakers. Like it doesn't matter. Like if you're not winning, there's just other stuff to pay attention to. It's not like you're forgotten about. It's just like, okay, cool. Like I'm gonna go watch the Dodgers. All right, cool. I'm going to go watch the Rams. Like, all right, cool. I'm going to go for a hike. I'm going to go get in a wave in. Like, that's just kind of what LA is. But to Deshaun Foster's credit, his staff, like, they've got, from what I'm told, like, over $10 million in their collective, which sadly is the truth of college football now. Like, you need to have a salary cap.
So that was intentional by him, right? Remember how he rallied all those donors as soon as he got the job?
Well, I mean, if you don't have that, you don't have a chance, right? Like, you just don't have a chance in this era. And now we're in, enter in revenue sharing. So, like, the LA schools have been, to me, like, behind some of these other schools around the country when it comes to, the ability to pay your players through your collectives, et cetera. But now both SC and UCLA are up to speed for this offseason. I mean, they're going to come out with some heat. And then you add in LA, you add in the Big Ten, you add in the market, you add in the opportunity at UCLA and SC really to play early. I think Deshaun is in a really advantageous position. You look at what the school did to him is a bet on him. They took a gamble. I think he's building a program that's reflective of that. So LA, 3-star players everywhere, 4-star players everywhere. LA, make it the place. And they've tried to do that. They've had over 3,000 recruits visit that campus and go to practice since he's taken the job, which is a lot of people.
Yeah.
So they've really opened up the doors to UCLA in a different way. And I think when you have an alum, you have an elite Hall of Fame player from that place. You have a staff that's got notoriety, and now you're having success. Like it's a really cool story to sell. Like I was even talking to some of their staff about it yesterday. Like here you are mid-November. Signing day is less than 3 weeks away. Like you are just pushing, like, look what happens when you give us some time. I mean, these guys weren't even together for a full week as a staff before spring ball started. Like it was kind of like Jed Fish at Washington. Like the calendar just was not in their favor the whole year. So you kind of survive year one and then you get going, and they're ending year one with a tremendous amount of momentum and an opportunity to get to the postseason.
With Dana Holgorsen and what Nebraska's going through, and you just left here after UCLA, would you rather be giving press conferences as Lincoln Riley, or would you rather be giving press conferences with Matt Rhule?
Oh, I don't know. I'd say Lincoln Riley, I think.
Is it because they're at home or because of the situation they're in, or?
That's tough. I mean, they just got hit with like an interesting, violation yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that.
Sure.
A news dump late.
Yeah, which is just, I have an opinion about that, but that's fine. I'm sure. I mean, find me a school in the country that doesn't have their analysts coaching on the field.
Yeah, and it's not on Lincoln's watch either, right?
No, I think it was. Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was 22. I thought it was 22.
Oh, maybe it was. Yeah, maybe it was. I'm not sure. Good call on the detail there. I would say this. For USC and Lincoln Riley right now, he like Matt Rhule has, I think, been really steady amid this. And I think that's the biggest everything that you want. You know, I think, why would I want to wake up in LA? Because Lincoln Riley lives in Palos Verdes overlooking the ocean. So I'd probably pick that if I had to do a press conference. No offense. I love my time in Lincoln, but I love the ocean dramatically. So I'd probably go in that regard. But like, I think this game this weekend is going to be one that's got a ton of storylines. Like, I would love to call this game, right? You've got all the shakeup in Nebraska that I'm sure you guys have talked about for 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
You've got, you know, quarterback shakeup at USC. I'm not sure the latest on Dylan Raiola after being banged up in the game that we called 2 weeks ago. I mean, there's just tons of storylines. Both teams dramatically need a victory, right? You've got the chasing 3 element for Nebraska, trying to get to a bowl game, of course. To USC, I mean, there are very few teams that have had that share of, you know, tough luck in games. You know, it's ironic that there are a bunch of them, right? Kansas was like that. Cal has been like that. USC has been like that in terms of just tight games where it hasn't gone their way. And I always go to the same thing that Coach Carroll taught me a long time ago, which is, you know, teams live in one of two worlds. They either hope they think that things are going to go well, or they know things are going to go well. Those are the biggest, you know, to me, it's a tiny difference. Like, when you walk out, you're like, and the game begins, it is, all right, I hope we play well today. I hope this play works. Or even when it doesn't, you're like, hey, give me the ball back. I know we're going to drive the ball down the field. And I think both of these teams, I would imagine both of their psyches are relatively fragile right now. I'd probably imagine both of them live in the hope category versus probably what they felt, you know, after Colorado game or after the LSU game early on in the season. Both of these teams are as confident and convicted as I think you've probably seen in the country, right? And all of us were into that and bought it and saw it. And I called an early game at Nebraska, and I felt like, yeah, this thing is coming. And I still am a huge believer in what Coach Rhule is doing and, you know, what Lincoln Riley's doing. I think they're perfectly, you know, fit for their respective jobs, big jobs, as you all know. And part of that is navigating this adversity. And I think both of them have such a pulse on their teams. You know, it's always fun for me to watch their press conferences because, you know, they're talking through the media to their team. Or when you call a game, sit. You know, you sit. I sat with Matt Rhule for 90 minutes before the game. Like he's to me probably one of my favorite parts of being in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
being around a guy like that every time we have a game. I mean, he's been nothing short of absolutely phenomenal to us as a TV crew. And, you know, I've known Lincoln for a long time, and he's been the same.
Yogi, last thing for me here. You mentioned, ironically enough, earlier installing an air raid in a couple of afternoons. Nebraska appears to be doing something similar. I know Coach Rhule says he's not going full air raid, but kind of with that premise, like, how practical do you think it is to bring in a guy who wasn't here over a bye week and have him being the guy that's going to be calling plays on Saturday?
I'm intrigued by it. I'll say that. You know, if you're going to try to install any type of new scheme or wrinkle, this would be the one to do. I've studied the air raid as much as probably anyone you guys have had on. And just because Mike Leach was a dear friend, so I was there all the time. And then you add in, like, the Graham Harrell element or, you know, the USC element. Like, I've seen all this. And the number one thing is I have, like, a full-on air raid document to detail the offense. And then the top of it is what every air raid, you know, coach who's come from that tree says, is that it's a philosophy and not a scheme. All right, the philosophy is based on timing and spacing. You know, it's finding green grass and maximizing personnel. And then it's what are you about, right? Lincoln Riley's run game is insanely different than what Mike Leach's run game was like. You kind of look at the tree, you look at Cliff Kingsbury, you know, his style of play in this offense is much different than I think what I've seen from a lot of guys that have come through that tree. And I would imagine Dana Holgorsen was the same. Like, I haven't studied his version of it. I just haven't had a ton of crossover in my career with the way that he does it. But what it's going to do is you know, it's a pure progression system, you know, meaning the quarterback does not have to read coverages. So Mike Leach has historically said to many of his quarterbacks, and not every one of his quarterbacks, quote, don't be a blank and blank coverage scientist. You know, don't be a coverage scientist. And that was his whole thing. Like, I don't want you going to the line of scrimmage and saying, all right, it's too high, and I anticipate this linebacker rolling here and this defensive end dropping here. Like, and I think that can be hard sometimes for guys that are really analytical. But it helps eventually when you get through that. So you're trying to just get the ball out of your quarterback's hands and get moving. And almost like you're playing in the backyard of, like, hey, he's open, throw it to him. Right? I mean, I've heard so many times where I've gone into quarterback meetings and the fourth year, veteran is saying, Coach, I don't know if I should throw this hitch here. The corner's kind of rolled up. And then the freshman rolls in and he's like, why'd you throw the hitch? And he goes, well, he was just open. and that's a true story. That's a true story from JT Daniels and Keaton Slovis under Graham Harrell at USC. Yeah. And I mean, that is how you have to play. So, I think it can be freeing. That's the idea for Dylan Raiola, is like get to the line of scrimmage and, you don't want to think a lot. I think you saw that in our game, right?
Right.
Like Malloy and UCLA did early on. Like, this offense, was challenged dramatically. In the second half, you saw half roll, getting the ball really fast. Like, you found the offense, at least 5-6 snaps where you found a little bit of a rhythm offensively. And I'm a big fan of, Coach Sapp's offense. Like, it was fun for me to study. I think it has a bunch of different answers built into it. But it's, it's more probably pro style than what they're going to do right now.
Yeah.
I'm just so intrigued to see how much really changes. Like, does the language that, the quarterback room has been studying, the offense has been saying for now, a couple years, I don't know if you totally can change what you call slide protection. Try to call it the same thing. So how does Coach Holgorsen adapt? Like, those are all the things that I think you probably have to figure out within 2 days before you even talk to the team, because those are going to be the questions. Players at every level want answers. And I think that's, the biggest thing they're going to have to provide. And again, I'll be curious, like, do they come out and is it crazy tempo? Is it 5 wides and they're running, versions of, the air raid as you referenced? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I doubt Denton Lynn knows either. So I'll be curious to see what they do defensively. Like, at the end of the day, Nebraska's struggled protecting, when you really look at their last handful of games and, the pressure and where pressure came from. And Denton Lynn and USC is very creative compared to what you saw at UCLA, like very similar. Like, Tyke Malloy coached for Denton Lynn. To think those two haven't talked over the last 2 weeks, I think is crazy. Like, I'd imagine UCLA DC has connected with the USC defensive coordinator and gave him some thoughts and ideas about, whether it's scheme, personnel, or even game plan.
Yogi, really appreciate the time.
Appreciate you squeezing us in, boss.
If you're up for it at some point in the offseason, would love to just have a Mike Leach conversation with you, because I'm a huge fan. So maybe we can get that on the schedule sometime, but really appreciate it.
Are you guys coming to LA?
Yes.
Oh, let's go. When are you coming out?
Well, that's the thing. I should be flying out with the team like I normally do, but I have a high school game that Friday night, so we're processing, Yogi. We're processing.
That's his humble brag's way of saying he's taking a PJ out
Stop there. Stop. No, it's not. Yogi, no.
Are you flying back with the team? Are
yes.
you going to get a little time in the sun? Oh, man, you're not even.
I know.
All right. Well, I recommend an early wake up.
Hey, so Danny K's or Rocco's for the fan base? What are you thinking? Either, neither? Is there a Husker bar?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question, too, guys. I mean, I don't know. I would wake up at 6 a.m. and I would find my way to Venice Beach. That's what I would do on game.
Yeah, you have the day off.
I'll be in Chicago. I'll be doing.
Oh yeah, you're in studio. That's right. Yeah, no game. Yeah.
Well, anyway, it's good for the soul. Get a little salt water on you. But let me know. I mean, you guys probably know more. Why don't you tell me what's going on with it?
I don't know. I'll have to hit you up later.
Yogi, we appreciate it.
Thanks, Yogi.
We'll talk to you later.
All right.
Bye, guys.
That's Yogi Roth from the Big Ten Network. Good stuff there.
Oh,
we are going to have to get him on to have just like a Mike Leach nerd out session.
He's really good.
No, incredible. Really good stuff.
I probably wasted his show prep just talking scheme. Like, he's one of those guys that can legitimately talk scheme.
Yeah, which I think is good.
And listen, you don't have to call a game and like know the sport in and out, but like if you're gonna do,
yeah, I mean, it can help.
It helps.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like I thought, and I guess it's different for play-by-play, right? Because I don't think Vin Scully was like Willie Mays. But,
yes. Yeah. Play-by-play is a little different.
Yeah, I listen to people all the time that call a sport that I have no idea
what's happening.
No.
Yeah. That's why I
listen to basketball people. Probably can't even dribble, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, but color, I'd like.
Right. You'd like a little insight there.
Yeah.
That's why I haven't called a ton of games, but I'm dramatically more comfortable on a basketball broadcast just because that's where I've lived.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's the place where I know what I'm saying and can be convicted in what I'm saying in a way that is just
I
different.
thought you may get into that a little bit with some of the downside of pluses because sometimes you get it's like.
What do you mean?
Kind of bare bones, like watching games on Plus.
Yeah. It's I don't mind that honestly. And there's some of them the broadcasts are really not bad. Some of them are real Spartan, but some of them really aren't bad. Honestly, the one last night that I was watching, the Liberty Carolina University one, was actually pretty good. They were doing like halftime interviews. They had like the good score bugs and everything. Like it felt like a real broadcast.
How Liberty football is just falling out of popular convo.
Yeah, they had a couple rough. I mean, that Kennesaw one was pretty rough, and then they lost the next week as well.
Who called their shot in Indy? Was that Adam
McClintock?
Yeah, that didn't think that would be the group of 5?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right. He said that he wasn't. Who did he like?
I don't know, but we were like scrolling through all those Matrix docs, right?
Yeah.
So it had to be him.
Yes, it was either him. He either liked Boise or I wanted to say maybe Appalachian. Somebody we talked to liked Appalachian State.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was him or somebody else. But no, that's super good stuff from Yogi. We'll have to get him back on because we can nerd out a little bit and feel like I get a little bit smarter with him. So I like that.
I get to go back to Nebraska City where the question was asked to me a couple weeks ago, not even this week, a couple weeks ago about man beaters and changing the check with me's in the passing game. Where I told you I was kind of explaining like not all passing games are created equal.
Yeah.
Sounds like they're going back to the version that the questioner asked me about with quick game being slants and outs as opposed to.
Well, and that's a really interesting thing that
and Coach Rhule went into a little bit of detail, which isn't like him on concepts, where he talked about leverage and choice routes.
But we hear, I know you've heard this from teams that have played Nebraska, where it's like, why does their pass offense look so easy and ours looks so hard?
Yeah.
That's a lot of it, right? It's just the
option routes.
Yes.
Where,
because if you've got an option route, by definition, if you choose right, you're open.
It's going to make you wrong defensively.
Right? Like if you choose right, you're open.
Yeah.
That's the key. We'll be back with more, and we will tackle the A.J. Allen question from like 90 minutes ago, but we will get to it, I promise. That's DBM Ravi Lulla. It's Hurrdat Sports Radio. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DBM Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill.
It's not me.
You're not, DB?
It's not me.
Who are you?
It's an imposter.
Well, that's fine. It's time for Bet On It, brought to you by War Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska. Place your sports bets. Make sure you get out to the casinos in Lincoln and in Omaha. Get out there. You can do your straight bets, parlays, props. You can do all sorts of stuff.
Mike Kanye, it's not really me.
It's not really you?
No, if you see me, I'm somebody else.
Who are you today? Where's the real you? Are you at War Sportsbook?
Yeah.
You placing some bets?
Let's go, baby. Probably gonna order some food with your $40.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for you to cash in.
Everybody tells me they have good food.
Or you could go take the $40, put it on a game, see if you can.
What do we like?
What do we like today? That's an interesting question.
What do we like today? There's nothing great.
Yeah, I'm not feeling a ton of what's happening today.
Yeah.
But here's a question I would like to bet on.
What's that?
Is the question that our guy Wyatt asked us
That's a hard one.
Show. It is a hard one.
Yeah.
There's no free money, even when I think there is. So the question to reset here was A.J. Allen, who was at Nebraska, transferred to Miami. He's had a few moments at Miami, but he's gotten kind of buried on the depth chart a little bit there. And the question was, do you think he would be better off at Nebraska or did the right thing in transferring to Miami? Mm-hmm. And you were a big A.J. Allen guy.
Yeah, I am a big A.J. Allen.
You liked the way he ran the football, right?
I did.
Would you, before we get to did he make the right move or not?
Well, clearly he did because he made it, so it's his.
That's not always true. You can make it your own and still be a bad idea.
Yeah, but he's got to own that. It ain't for me to own.
I mean, I can still own it, but it's still a bad decision.
Yeah, that's called perspective. He gets his own.
I own the first marriage. Doesn't mean it was a good idea.
Touche.
But you're sitting there. You go, okay. If he's still in the room at Nebraska, do you like him stylistically.
Yeah, he would, I think.
In a way that maybe some of the other backs have struggled.
I do. But now he's still got to run under the same confines, right? The reps. Right. He would just be one more mouth to feed.
Do you think he's a little more instinctive?
Yes.
So that, I think, would help here a lot.
I mean, maybe.
Because if we're talking about what we talked about yesterday, right? If you're having an issue with certain not getting enough reps, one of the things that can overcome that is being a really instinctual runner. Mm-hmm. So that his particular skill set, I think, would actually be really useful here.
Yeah.
Whereas another guy that's really talented, but maybe he's more of a work up a lather guy, would not do as well here, even if there's talent is relatively equal.
It's interesting that he's just not playing a ton.
Yeah, I think it's a little strange.
You know, I don't know about his health, but I mean, he had the big ones against A&M, Florida A&M, and Ball State early, but I mean, he's less than 200 yards on the season, so I don't want to extrapolate too much.
And he had a little bit better last year.
What did he go for?
I thought it was like 450. I might be off on that. I'm trying to bring it up, but my surprise, my internet's not working again.
580, maybe
a little more. Maybe it was a little more.
But anyway, yeah, it's not
a huge number.
Yeah, it's not eye popping. So I don't know, but the reason that question was interesting to me is because I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, he met your eye.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you have a very specific thing you kind of look for with running backs.
So, but I don't. I mean, that's not the answer to.
No, you don't stick him in this running back room and all of a sudden.
Because I still think some of the things that we talked about with Schaefer, which, by the way, was
360 last year,
was pretty good.
Schaefer?
Yeah.
Yeah, Schaefer is not bad sometimes.
Like that. I just like the nuances within the conversation about reps versus the number of plays versus, being good at a little versus being okay at a lot.
Mm-hmm. I think I'd rather be good at a little.
Yeah, somebody asked me something a couple weeks ago, and it was I think I was either...
Which is maybe my issue with Cooper Flagg, but anyway, go ahead.
Hot take. When I was talking quick game versus what we'd actually call a screen game and stuff like that, and then not get into minutia. And I was in the booth, and I either come out for halftime or the quarter or something like that, and I was talking to one of the former players, and I was just like, man, if Fedoni would only get vertical, right, as opposed to kind of getting lateral and going along the sidelines, just get vertical. And he looked at me, and I won't give him up. I mean, he can share if he wants, but he's like, yeah, I mean, maybe you shouldn't ask the guy that's coming off 2 ACLs to do that. And it's the first, like, literally, I mean, I think about it a lot, but that's the first time, kind of like the E.J. Barthel question a couple weeks, like you think I would think about a lot of things that have never really come up before.
Sure, yeah. I mean, there's a lot out there.
That had never come up before. Like, why would you put him in that position to have to make that move?
When you've got some other guys.
Yeah.
And I think he's better at other things.
So,
I think he's pretty good at getting down the seam.
Those intermediate routes, he's hard to tackle in the open field. But I think that is the problem. He's hard to tackle in the open field. So it's like, get him the ball in space and let him go.
Right.
Just not laterally.
But like those two things aren't.
Yeah, they don't.
Right?
They don't have to be lateral. You can get him in space vertically as well.
Because being hard to tackle is not a universal thing.
So
like Ja'Cory Barney is hard to tackle in a different way than Thomas. It's hard to tackle.
Right. So it just got me thinking, because the question was rhetorical. Right? Like,
why would you have a guy coming off a couple bust ACLs?
So I wondered, I'm like, fudge, could I fast forward to today and think, you know what? Maybe you'll see different guys, similar concepts, but we'll be playing to their strengths more.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Because that's a legit, that's why that's one of the reasons you kind of make the move, right? Especially if we've talked about
okay, it's a good concept.
All
but
the
maybe
things
not
that
Coach,
that Coach Rhule said.
Yeah.
When he's like, we do 95% pretty well. These are some things we need to tweak. And we heard Yogi say, and believe me, Yogi's not going to say, like, if he doesn't think there were good offensive concepts, he would say,
no, he doesn't owe anybody anything.
No. And you can't lob him softballs.
No.
Like, he's like, I don't know.
He's going to answer.
Yeah, he's going to answer, right?
Yeah.
So.
And we didn't lead him into Satterfield at all.
Now, and maybe those things will come to fruition. Well, you'll see similar plays, just different people doing it.
Yeah.
But I do think, and I said this earlier, I still think, especially offensively, it will be people that you've seen do it before.
Yeah.
Just maybe, or play before, I should say.
Yeah.
Right?
So you don't think you're going to have, like...
So maybe there is more Barney.
Yeah.
Maybe there is more Lloyd.
But probably not rolling out like Malachi Coleman at this point.
Right.
Yeah. Right?
Right.
Because that's the name that comes up a lot with people.
Or
because he played last year.
Carter or whomever else, right? Like,
which Carter's played some, but not a...
And listen, I get it. Somebody, was it Wyatt that asked the question?
Mm-hmm.
I get why, like, if, because everybody's trying to read through the cryptic tweets, which, by the way, like, one thing that I would tell a player.
Don't do that.
If you don't want something open to interpretation.
Don't leave it open for
interpretation.
But they do want it open.
But if you do want it open for interpretation, then
be ready for
by all means.
And be ready for the blowback.
Just don't want
Don't be like, whoa,
I can't believe people read into that. Yeah, you can't.
Like, because that was your intention. Listen, I've been immature before and sometimes still am. Like, I've put out a cryptic tweet or two, and I knew exactly what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does. Everybody wants to, is he okay? Is it what's going on?
Yeah,
here?
so I didn't, I didn't lend that any credence, but I did understand Wyatt's point about, or his question.
Have they used him well?
Have they used him well? And it's a two-way street, right?
Did he want to get on the field?
Yeah.
And has he done the things necessary?
And they already made some concessions, right? Mm-hmm. Like they moved you outside.
Where they needed a little more help. Or maybe had more opportunity. Theoretically.
So there's the rub.
Yeah.
Because
he could, two-way street.
Yeah, because Carter could say, or his family or whomever could say, well, if you needed the help,
why don't
you let me help?
Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer would be, but there's
a couple ways to say that, right? Like
the question could be like, who are you replacing?
Yeah. Because just because there's more opportunity in a room doesn't mean there's a lot of opportunity in a room.
Yeah.
Right? It's like just because you're the best transfer portal quarterback doesn't mean you're a good quarterback.
So that's just an example of you gave me Shavers and McGahee.
Yeah.
Right? But I did like how you kind of doubled back and said, yeah, maybe no the jack position. Well, it depends. Like, which MJ Sherman are we getting?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
If, Prince Will has been a little MIA. There's some guys that it's like,
and we've seen McGahee play more at those spots.
Are we developed? So I don't think structurally you'll see a ton of variation. You just may see a lot of similar guys doing more of what they do.
That's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory. Coming up next, we'll wrap up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and reminding you to get out to unionomaha.com to get your tickets for this Sunday's championship match at 2 p.m. at Werner Park. Your Union Omaha will be playing for the USL League One Championship. Get to unionomaha.com for tickets today. DB.
Yes.
Different kind of professional football that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I like the NFL, as you do as well, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Big football guy?
Yeah, I like all sports. Football is a good place to start.
You do like all sports.
I do.
It is kind of ridiculous. Not in like a bad way, but like I think I watch a lot of sports. And then you're like, hey, did you watch the college women's field hockey championship? I'm like, no, DB, I didn't. And I'm not going to.
Yeah, it's fine.
The number of conversations we have, it's like, no, I did not watch the...
I asked you one this morning. I can't remember, but I knew I was like, I couldn't put it. I couldn't put it back as soon as it came out.
It's like, no, I did not watch the Norris JV game last night, DB. It's not a thing that I'm going to do.
My bad.
But I do watch the NFL. I watch the NFL a good bit. And I wanted to ask you kind of some would you rathers with some NFL teams. And I'm going to start. I've got two different categories. I've got bad teams and I got good teams.
Okay.
Or perceived bad teams and perceived good teams. Okay. Let's start with, you want to start bad or good?
Bad.
Okay. That's where I wanted to start anyway. Bad teams. Would you rather be the Panthers?
Yes.
Or Just over everybody? That's the bad team you want to be more than everybody?
No, that's
okay.
who I signed with. So,
I know, you got a little bias. Panthers or Jets? Who would you rather be?
Panthers.
Okay.
Even with Gettleman, I'll take the Panthers.
Panthers or Giants?
Giants.
Why?
Better foundation. I mean, I'm gonna have to go find a quarterback, but
that's about the only thing you're worried about
yeah.
And you still like Dable?
Yeah, even though I don't think he's gonna have that job.
No, but you think he's a good coach?
Yeah.
If he survives that for some reason, you think you're in a good spot?
Yeah, I'd rather be the Giants.
Okay. Panthers or Bears?
I'm going to say the Bears because they have better pieces, but that's a dumb franchise.
That's a really dysfunctional franchise right now.
Yeah. Like, you fired your OC knowing you had Caleb Williams coming.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have hired that OC. But, Bears have better pieces. Is as dysfunctional a front office, though.
100%. Panthers or Patriots?
Patriots.
Why? Do you like Drake May?
Better ownership group.
Fair.
Yeah.
And Drake May's been looking okay.
Yeah, when he's healthy.
Yeah, like he's looked all right.
Yeah,
which I think is the guy most people had the most questions about in that class.
I'd rather be the Patriots.
Would you rather have Drake May than Bryce Young? Smaller sample size for Drake May, but that may be a good or bad thing for Bryce Young.
You'd think that would be easier for me to answer.
I don't think it is.
But I'm watching Young the last couple of weeks.
Looks a little better.
He's a winner.
He's so small. Does that bother you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the thing that's
doesn't
always.
bother me.
Drake May or Bryce?
Nobody's trying to tackle you, Shane.
You know what? I think all things being equal with good player, like if I had the same players.
Yeah, if you've got like a good roster around you.
I think.
Let's say you've got.
I think give me Bryce Young.
So let's say you've got the Giants roster.
Give me Bryce Young.
You want Bryce Young?
Probably.
More dynamic?
Oh, I don't know if he's more dynamic, just more or less apt to blow it.
So you got the Panthers over the Jets and Patriots.
No, I'd take the Patriots.
Oh, sorry. You got the Panthers just over the Jets.
Yeah.
You've got the Giants, I'm guessing, over the other four.
Giants and Bears is tough.
It's close.
Yeah.
That's a pretty dysfunctional franchise. I don't look at the Giants as that dysfunctional.
I don't either.
I think they're bad. But I also think it's a lot of Daniel Jones being bad.
If you let me get the Bears players and the Giants front office, I would say yeah.
Yeah, that's not how this works.
I know. Because the Bears have the better roster.
Yeah, 100%.
They just do some
and this isn't new for the Bears.
You really thought you could hire an attractive OC with Caleb Williams coming with a lame duck coach.
Yeah. That didn't make any sense. Nothing they did over this offseason made sense with the coaching staff.
Would I rather be the Giants or the I'm going to say
let's say this is a 3-year answer, not a 1-year answer.
Boy, that is tough. I will say the Bears.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I think the longer you make the time frame, the more I choose the Giants.
So I think the longer you make the time frame, the more you can get the right front office.
The more you bet on Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
See, because I look at
they got the quarterback right.
I look at rosters though as kind of fickle. Like I would rather have the structure of a franchise.
The Bears have more good players.
Right now, 100%.
Even though they have Tibbs,
100%,
Burns, and Dexter Lawrence. And neighbors.
The Bears have a better roster. I 100% agree with you.
And the Bears aren't old.
No, but rosters to me are just more in flux generally, especially in the NFL, although they're pretty young.
I think you can change the front office before you can change your roster.
I would rather ride with a good front office and let them figure out the roster.
But over 3 years, then I should win.
Yeah.
If I'm the Bears.
What if I make it 5 years?
I probably still have to take the Bears.
Because that's why I said the longer you give me.
I can change a front office in a year. You can't do that with your roster.
Here's the other thing that I'm worried about with the Bears, because I don't know. I get this.
Now, historically, like if so, what I'm talking about
historically, the Bears have been stupid no matter who the front office is.
No, they're cheap.
Sure, cheap is a better word than stupid. You're
like
right.
That's like they're cheap,
and the Giants aren't really.
So that's the only thing that gives me pause.
Yeah. Okay.
But
yeah,
I also know that it's been 80 years since the Bears have developed their own quarterback. So am I really going to hold out hope?
Well, yeah. I mean, are you really going to hold out hope that they don't screw up Caleb Williams?
He would be defying monumental historical odds
to be good, to end up being good. Yeah. Yeah. That's why. I mean, I think it's the history of the Bears that make it really hard for me. Because I can look back and look at Giants rosters and be like, they figured it out. They figured it out here. Like,
I still think I would say Bears.
Interesting. All right, let's move to good teams. Let's start with your Steelers. Are you taking the Steelers? Or let's stay in division, the Ravens.
I'm taking the Steelers.
Because that Ravens defense scares you.
They're not good. I mean, these teams, like the Ravens are going to get their big plays this week. I know they will.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the first time I think the Steelers can actually match them.
Here's an interesting one, I think. Steelers or Vikings?
Steelers.
Okay. The Vikings were a little fraudulent on their start?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll buy that. Let's switch gears here then. We'll leave the Steelers out of it. Vikings or 49ers? Vikings have the fraudulent start. 49ers have the slow start with the injuries. I don't know if I buy that they're getting healthy.
Give me the Niners.
You buy the health? Or that they'll get healthy enough?
I'm betting on track record.
Fair enough. All right. Here's an interesting one, I think. I think they want to play kind of similarly here. Steelers or Chargers?
Very similar. Very good head coaches.
Yeah. Kind of limit mistakes on offense.
Harbaugh's impact on Herbert is, I'm not surprised.
Harbaugh's so good.
He's
so good.
That's why they were my turnaround team.
I thought it was Commanders. Commanders was your turnaround team.
I took one in each division.
Oh, that's right. The Chargers were mine.
Yeah.
I thought they could go worst to first because I thought
and I said if it wasn't for anybody but having the Chiefs in their league, I would have taken them in the league.
Which is funny because the Chiefs have been almost exactly what I thought they've been, except for they win every game.
How many one-score games have the Chiefs won in a row?
I don't know, but it's 4 walk-offs this year. They've won 4 games on the last play.
I think they've won like 9 consecutive one-score games.
Mahomes is the only player in NFL history with a winning record when he's been down by 10.
That's
so dumb.
Yeah.
But they're almost exactly who I thought they'd be. They just all the walk-offs have gone their way.
They got a big one this weekend. But
Chargers or Steelers?
This year?
Yeah, this year.
Steelers.
3 years.
Maybe the Chargers.
Yeah, because Herbert's a little more dynamic.
Quarterback's in place, and you've got a really good head coach.
Yeah.
Not that he's better than Tomlin, but I don't know who's going to be
close to an equal.
I don't know who's going to be playing quarterback for me in 3 years.
Yeah, and you do with the Chargers.
I probably would take the Chargers. I don't like this game.
Last one. No Steelers in this one, so you like it a little bit better. 49ers or Chargers? This one's tricky, I think.
Reluctantly, I'm going to take the Chargers.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I really don't.
I'm going to take the Chargers.
I think I take the Chargers both this year and over 3 years in that scenario. The 49ers are getting old. I think that was a really fun game, DB.
It's hard.
That's because I didn't have to answer any questions.
Yeah, a little sweaty.
That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio tomorrow.